The British election study has been running for 60 years, and it is the way that we understand how people vote in this country, and that enables us to look at how that changes over time and also short-term dynamics between elections.
It was 60 years ago, next month, that Harold Wilson led the Labour Party to victory in the 1964 general election. It was the first election covered by the British Election Survey. Harold Wilson famously said, "A week is a long time in politics." So if a week is a long time, what about 60 years?
Continuity is the most important thing the British election study has to offer. Over the last 60 years, it can tell us what are the effects of post-industrial society replacing industrial society, and of the growth of mass immigration, and how people and parties have changed their relationship. It can also tell us why people do things, not just if there's an association between their attitudes, but which one comes first and which leads to change and which doesn't.
One of the challenges of working with data that stretches all the way back to the 1960s is that although we have asked about many of the same issues, such as immigration or taxation, over that whole time period, the same questions have not always been used. As a result, we've had to develop a technique where we ask a modern sample of voters all of these questions at the same time in order to map what people thought at different times onto a single comparable scale. And that lets us unlock the power of the BES to track voter attitudes over the whole period.
The British election study has always been cutting edge in how it collects its data. And the best example of this in recent years is our online panel, which started in 2014, covers the last 4 general elections, the 2014 referendum in Scotland and the 2016 referendum on Brexit, and lets us answer not only how Britain votes, but how voters in Britain have changed over time.
That's allowed us to see how voters have become less attached to political parties, less driven by class loyalties and more driven by, say, their attitudes on issues of the day or valuations of the parties. We've also seen during that time a change in the social and demographic correlates of voting behaviour. So that age and education, for example, have become much more important. That process particularly sped up around the Brexit referendum, because Leave and Remain voters began lining up behind the Conservatives and Labour disproportionately. And because Leave and Remain voters have very different social profiles, that had a knock-on effect in terms of which groups voted for which parties.
For me, the highlight of working in the British election study has been being part of something that's such a core part of our understanding of British democracy. Most academic surveys get used in 1, maybe 2 journal articles and then think about a trace, but our data gets used by hundreds, if not thousands, of people. There aren't many surveys that were conducted in the 1960s that we still use today, and I'm really proud to think that there could be someone who isn't even born yet who could be using our data in another 60 years.
I think in the last 10 years, there have been 2 principal, really important impacts. The first of those is really diffuse. The way the British election study data is the kind of quality basis for so much analysis by pollsters, by political parties, by journalists, by think tanks, all kinds of organisations that are part and parcel of British democracy. The second impact is particularly important to me personally because of all the work that we've done to communicate using British election study data what's going on in British politics, a really fascinating, tumultuous period, to the public on both the television and also on the radio.